Today on the Tiger Football Report, we'll preview the Tigers' game against the rival Delaware Blue Hens. Get ready, fans. The Tiger Football Report starts now.
And here we have 1893 from the makers of Pepsi Cola. I'm gonna swirl it. I'm gonna smell it. I'm just gonna take one small sip.
Kinda seemed like more than a sip.
Yeah, let me show you. Refined.
1893, made with cola nut extract and real sugar. Boldly blended colas.
For an athlete, there's nothing scarier than a torn ACL.
Athletes trust us with their care and their careers because we're a recognized leader in sports medicine.
Get back to your active life sooner with MedStar Sports Medicine.
Wise Market's ice cream plant is based in Sunbury, Pennsylvania, and it's locally owned and operated. We've been making our ice cream for nearly 50 years. We create roughly 70 flavors of ice cream right now. We use local ingredients, especially our cream, which is from our milk plant. The cream is what gives our ice cream a rich and creamy texture. Now, together with our customers, we've created a product called Peanut Butter Indulgence, which will be coming out this summer. It's a peanut butter ice cream with sea salt caramel swirl, chocolate-covered pretzel. How could you go wrong with that? Personally, I love our ice cream. If you come to our house at any given time, you'll find at least 5 packets of ice cream in our freezer. Our kids grew up eating Wise quality ice cream, and now we get to treat our grandchildren to it. It's been a pleasure for me to be tasting ice cream for over 40 years at the Wise Markets, and I'm loving every minute of it.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of the Tiger Football Report. I'm your host, Spiro Morekas. The Tigers are on the road this weekend to take on the University of Delaware Blue Hens. As always, I'm joined by the head coach of the Tigers, Rob Ambrose. And Coach, every year Delaware Week's a big one. This is odd because both teams come into this game on 5-game losing streaks. Both teams come in without having won a CAA game. That's never happened before in this matchup.
Okay.
And they don't have the coach that you thought you were going to be coaching against, as Dave Brock was let go a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, that is true. I said that earlier. Somebody asked me a question about that, and I don't think I've ever coached against an interim guy before, but and in rocket science, it's human chess. Field's the same size, kids are the same, and everybody wants to win. Every football player wakes up for every snap of his life to win. So whoever's coaching on their side, they got good coaches. Trust me, they got good coaches. They got good players, and the Delaware game always seems to find itself to be a very interesting game, a good game.
Let's talk about some of their players. Wes Hill's their running back, averaging 9 yards a carry. And he's carried the ball 63 times. Not like he's carried it 5 times from 45 yards. He's carried it 63 times, 9 yards a carry. One problem he's tended to have, though, is he's fumble prone. But they have run the ball well. They're averaging almost 6 yards a carry running the football.
That is their strength. They're big, they are strong, their scheme is solid, and they have more than one back. They have 3 that tote it pretty good. And they all are a little bit different, and it gives you a little bit change up when you're trying to defend them. But you're not really defending them. You're defending those big behemoths up front that move really, really well, and they're very aggressive.
Their quarterback, Joe Walker, last year struggled a lot as a freshman. He's had his struggles throwing the football this year. They're in the bottom 5 in FCS football in yards passing per game. But last week in the game against Stony Brook, Walker started to take off a little more run option than they had previously. What do you do to try to offset that?
That is one of the biggest questions to ever ask when you're playing against a kid who can extend the game. We had troubles last week against a kid from UNH, scored a touchdown in the open space. You still got to pressure him. But you got to hold. You have to pressure him and hold him in the pocket. You can't pass rush recklessly. Like, you may get him or you may not, because a guy like him is athletic enough to escape a one-handed grasp. So you really have to play with your hands. You got to drive the offensive line back, squeeze the pocket, and stress him out without letting him out.
On the defensive side, they've got these Reeder brothers that are pretty darn good, and a defense that coming into the year was one that many felt was going to be one of the best in the CAA. When you look at them on film, what do you see from a defensive side?
Front seven, huge, strong, and fast. Really, and I was busy blowing up UNH because that's the best front seven that they've had since I remember being back. And I believe that after I watched film this week, these guys are probably better. They're a little young in the back end and a little inexperienced, but up front, boy, they are big, they are strong, they are fast, and they are mean.
Always fun to go in there and win and make all their fans unhappy, isn't it, though?
Well, it's happened once or twice in my career, and it's a great game day atmosphere. It really is. It's the state of Delaware. They are the state of Delaware's team, and they've committed to their athletic programs to a great degree, and it's shown with their successes over the decades. I'll never forget the first time I ever went there, and I was in awe of their fan base and their team. But I think the days of us being in awe of them are over, and that now we're just going to go compete.
Remember the first time I went there, 1982, I think, and Delaware scored 4 points. 2 safeties.
Yes, I kind of heard
Tigers
stories
won
about that. I was younger back then.
All right, one thing, I'm going to mix it up a little bit here. One thing many people don't know about you, and I wanted to get your opinion.
Okay.
How does it feel, having been a lifelong Chicago Cubs fan, to finally have your team for the first time in your life in the World Series?
Oh, my gosh. That's funny that you asked. While I was born in Chicago, I grew up here. And growing up here, how can you not fall in love with the Orioles? And, you know, since my childhood, Memorial Stadium and all that. But I was born in Chicago, and I followed the Cubs. The first time I ever went to a baseball game was at Wrigley Field. And I didn't know anything, and I walked in, and it looked like where God had decided baseball should have been played. It's that beautiful. And I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of good runs. I've seen some chances. But somebody told me this week it's probably the sign of the apocalypse that the Cubs are playing the Cleveland Indians in the World Series. But somehow or another, that streak's going to get broken.
And for you, I'm sure it was Saturday had to be a weird day. I mean, here your football team lost again, and you're going through a year that you're not happy with, but that night, the Cubs make it to the World Series for the first time. Were you able to enjoy that at all, or were like not even worried about it?
Not at all. Are you crazy? No. Look, I'm not the only guy in Baltimore who wears a Chicago Cubs hat. People look at me like I got 3 heads. But I would throw away every ounce of Cubs gear I got and have us live through another 100 years of that curse just for a damn win. No, I'm not. It's football season. I love the Cubs, but it's football season.
All right, the Tigers and the Blue Hens set for a 3:30 kickoff at Delaware Stadium. Gordy Combs and I will have the call for you on CBS Sports Radio 1300 and TowsonTigers.com starting at 3:15. The game also will air on Comcast Sportsnet. Well, last week, Shane Simpson had his first ever kickoff return for a touchdown. So every week we finish up with me asking about one of your former players or teammates. Today's player, when I say Derek Joseph, what do you think?
Well, considering you're asking me, my answer is I told you. Twice. That when I took the job, you rode me about not having a kickoff return for a touchdown in so many years, decades, I believe, or something like that.
Decades when you took the job.
Exactly, and I said that we had a young man that I guarantee you will break that. And Derek Joseph did that, and he did it a lot.
4 times.
He did it a lot, and actually I think he might have done it 5 and had one called back. So incredibly talented, super fast, one of the best return men I've ever seen. And that puts him in pretty elite company since I had a chance to play with Dave when he was in college. But I also told you, don't lose faith that just because Derek Joseph graduated, you will still see kickoff returns for touchdowns. And I have kept my word.
Yes, you have. That will do it for us today on the Tiger Football Report. For head coach Rob Ambrose, I'm Spiro Morekas. Speak with you soon, and as always, go Tigers.